the moment you've all been waiting for. Under Dan's leadership, G5 evolved from a simple web marketing application into a complete suite of AI marketing technologies. The Bend-based company grew from one self-storage client into a huge platform servicing more than 600 customers and over 8,500 properties in self-storage, senior living, and multifamily housing. As a believer in supporting entrepreneurs, Dan co-founded the Bend Venture Conference and was instrumental in starting both EDCO's Venture Catalyst program and Founders Pad. I'm sure it goes without saying that EDCO is very pleased to finally welcome him onto the stage. Dan Hobin, G5 co-founder and former CEO. He's going to give us the G5 story and lessons learned. Dan, come on up. Such an honor to have you. Yes.
Wow, it's bright. That light is bright. It's good to see everyone. Can I get some riff? And is this going to go in and out, this microphone? Can I get some riff and some birdseed granola? Or oatmeal? Yeah? Get some on? You got some? I need a little energy. Hey, it's good to see everyone, except for I can't really see you. I got a light in my face. It's good to see everyone here in person. It's been a while since we had an event like this in real life, and excited to see people. I hope it's not the super spreader event of the year, but thanks for showing up. Thanks for having me back. My talk is, there's about 3 parts to it. First, I'm going to give an overview of the G5 story from when we started the company 16 years ago to when we sold it last August. And I've got like 20 minutes to cover those 16 years, so it's going to be kind of high level. And as part of that, I'm going to cover or give an overview of the buyer of the company, which is RealPage, and how they tried to acquire us 4 different times. And then I'm going to share some lessons learned. And hopefully we will have some time for some questions at the end. Okay? For those that don't know, G5 is we built a marketing software platform that we use to sell services, marketing services to owners and operators of self-storage properties, senior living communities, and apartment communities. And all of those are rental properties that have good amount of turnover every month, and they need new leads and new tenants every month, and that's what we did. We helped them get those leads and tenants. Our platform was a suite of services that included websites and SEO and advertising and lead tracking and analytics. And we sold it on a subscription basis to people. We've got a couple of nice G5ers right here in the front row. Good to see you. And our clients would spend anywhere from $400 a month to a couple $1,000s a month per property. And in the end, we had close to 8,500 properties on the platform. And I always say it wasn't a very sexy business, but it was a good business to run from Bend, Oregon. So that's what we did. So quick story. My amazing wife and I, make sure you tell her I said that. My amazing wife and I moved to Bend in 2002 from San Francisco. I'd spent 10 years there during the dot-com days. I was involved in 3 startup companies, 2 that had gone public, and 1 that had crashed and burned. Of course, the one that crashed and burned was the one that I founded and started. It's a typical dot-com company. It's VC-backed. We raised $7 million over 3 years. Never really figured out our business model. Pivoted 3 different times. Had a lot of parties. Had a lot of fun. And it was kind of the typical dot-com. I learned a ton in that business. I call it my $7 million MBA, courtesy of Canaan Partners, the venture capital company that funded us. But no, you really do. You learn a lot from the things that don't work well. I think it set us up well. Can I get that microphone? Oh, really? This one better? And so, anyway, it set me up kind of for the next deal and being a little bit more cautious on how we spent money the second time around. So then in 2004, 2005, or late 2004, I was in Bend. They needed something to do. I had made a small investment in one of my brother's self-storage properties, and it wasn't doing very well. So I decided to dig in and see, what was going on. And what we found is that their marketing was terrible, or basically non-existent. And it wasn't just them, it was the entire industry that was terrible and behind. And a lot of people in 2004 and 5, people were online, except for the storage industry they were laggards. And so we built a website for them, we optimized it a little bit, and we got really good results right off the bat. And it wasn't that we were that good, it was just we were better than everyone else than what everyone else was doing, and they weren't doing very much. So it wasn't really that difficult up front. It was kind of a land grab. So we stayed focused in the self-storage business for the first 3 years, and literally focused in it. And then one of our clients owned some senior living communities and wanted us to help them in that. And we said, sure, we can help you. And we expanded in that space. And then about a year later, we got into multifamily. Same thing, one of our clients that owns storage owns some multifamily properties. And we bootstrapped the company. So I had, from the previous experience, I'd raised a bunch of money, too much money, and didn't. So this time I said I want to prove the business model first before we raise money. So we bootstrapped, and my co-founder, a guy named Greg Meyer, who's our CFO, was an amazing CFO, and we wouldn't be here without him, but he was really good at making sure we didn't overspend. And we would get a new customer, and get them live, and then we could hire an employee. And then we'd get another customer, get them live, and then we could hire an employee. And that's how we grew for the first 5 years. We got to about $7 million in revenue in 5 years. We were growing fast. We had just entered the multifamily space, which was a big market and a little bit more competitive. And we didn't have any cash on the balance sheet. We were just kind of spending receivables, basically, and we needed capital to grow. So we decided to go out and raise money. We hired an investment bank, and we went out and we had a lot of interest, and we raised $15 million at $20 million pre-money, so $35 million post-valuation. And it was really good. We were able to de-risk a little bit, so Greg and I will take a little bit of money off the table, which is nice after not paying ourselves very much for the beginning. And then, but most importantly, we put some cash on the balance sheet. And so we had some fuel to grow. Then we did what I think a lot of businesses do. We took an extremely capital-efficient business, and we threw the model out the window, and we started spending money. So private equity guys came on board. We picked Volition Capital out of Boston as a private equity partner. And private equity guys, they want you to grow. The way you create value is growth. And so we thought, in order to grow, we got to hire. And so we went from 60 to 120 employees in 6 months, and we grew too fast. And the wheels started falling off the bus, and we had all kinds of problems. I made some bad hires that hurt us. We promoted some really good people in the company, promoted them to managers, and they had no management experience, and we had no management training. And that was challenging. With a woman that I brought on to run sales convinced me that we needed to move from a vertical sales focus to a horizontal go-to-market strategy, which was a bad idea, and we did it. We moved into new offices, and by doing that, we were spread out, and we were on different floors and in different sections, and so all of a sudden, we had these natural silos within the company. And so you felt a lot of that pain with silos. We had a big sexual harassment lawsuit against one of our executives that was unfounded, but we had to spend a ton of time and energy defending it and working against it. And we just had a lot of growing pains. And it was a tough year and a half. Believe me, it's not fun, especially when you got new private equity guys on board that are expecting you to grow, and you're having this. And then good employees get frustrated, and they start leaving. And then you lose customers and retention rates drop. And then our business that was a fast-growing business for the first 5 years, just growth stalled. And it was tough. It was a tough time. And so put our head down. That was when growth stalled for the first time. Put my head down, fired some people, unwound some things that we had done. And in about a year and a half, we got it back. We got it going again, and we got the growth rate back up. And that was a good thing, but it was tough. It was a painful time. And we got the growth rate back up, and then, so we were about 8 years into the business at that time. And RealPage is a big software company out of Dallas. They were doing kind of a roll-up play in the space, buying a lot of companies. So they came knocking at the door, said, we want to buy you. And we said, nah, we're not ready for sale. And they said, no, we want to buy you. And so we shared some financials, and they came out, and they threw out a number. And we said, no, it's not good enough. Go away. So they went away. And then 3 months later, they came back, and they increased their offer by $20 million. And so now it looked a little more attractive. And so it was about 2x what we had done with the private equity round 3 years before, or a couple years before. So I was tired. We'd gone through this 2.5 year period of our first turnaround. And I was like, I talked to private equity. I said, listen, you can make 2x money. It's not huge, but you've only been in 3 years. Let's do this deal. And those guys listened to me, which was good. And so we signed a LOI, and we started the diligence process. And I don't know if anyone's been through acquisition due diligence, but it's tough. And these guys, it's like put on the rubber glove and come at you. And we weren't. As a kind of a fast-growing company, we weren't necessarily buttoned up at that time. So it was tough, and it was a grind, and they spent 60 days going through every contract and vendor agreements and all of our source code, and and people have been through it. No, it's tough. And they had a reputation for retrading deals that they were at the end. And I knew a couple guys that had sold their business to them, and they warned me. And so when we signed the LOI, I told them, I said, if you guys try to, you have a reputation of retrade. If you try to retrade, we're not going to do this. And sure enough, 2 weeks before the deal, they came back, and they're this big company, and they're at the time, and they're like, and they say, oh, we found all this stuff in diligence, and we can't do the deal as is, but if you move some of this into an earn-out, we can. And I was like, fuck you, we're not doing it. And it was good. But meanwhile, though, back at the company, so what's happened is when you're doing a deal, when you're involved in a deal, you lose focus of running the business. And the management team was kind of working on the diligence and all this, and all of a sudden we get all these challenges. And employees found out we were selling the company, and employees are just getting frustrated, like what's going on? And then employees start leaving again, and then customers are not happy. Customers, retention rates come down, and growth stalls for the second time. So put your head down, go back. We got to fix this growth problem, and because again, value is all about growth. So we hired some people, moved things around. Probably took about another 1.5 years, 2 years, and we got the growth rate back up again. And we started. Customers were happy. Retention rates went up, and started adding, winning more big deals, and we started growing. And about that time, so now we're about 5 years into the Volition hold. Okay, so Volition had been an investor for 5 years, and the private equity guys, they're typically in for 3 to 5 years. Their goal is to make 3x to 5x returns in 3 to 5 years. And so they say, hey, listen, growth rate's up, things are looking well, things are looking good. Let's test the market. So we hired some bankers, went through a process. We went out. We had a lot of interest. A lot of interest from the private equity sector, not necessarily the strategics, but private equity. And we picked another private equity company out of Philadelphia called Peak Equity Partners. So the first PE firm I had was Volition out of Boston, and the second one was Peak Equity out of Philly. And my strategy was, if you're going to partner with private equity, you want them as far away as possible, so they don't come into your office every month looking at you and checking at you. And it actually worked really well. It's hard to get from Philadelphia to Bend, Oregon. And so they'd come out once or twice a year, which is good to keep them away. But they were good people. We really liked them. In particular, they had one partner who was the CEO of a company that had grown the company over 20 years and sold it, and had a lot of hands-on operating experience, and I thought that was really valuable. And and he and I got along well, and in fact, I could pick up the phone and call him whenever I had a question. And they helped us. They really did help us a lot over the next 5 years. We had new capital on the balance sheet. We were able to de-risk, again, at that time, pull money out. They bought kind of majority of the business. Greg Meyer, my partner, got to retire at that time. and I agreed to stay on and run it for them through the next transaction. Their goal was to grow it and sell it within the next 5 years. So we had a new board, new PE firm, and they wanted to grow. So often the PE firm's model is they come in and say, the way we're going to grow is we're going to upgrade the executive team. Not me, but the executive team. And and at the time we had a couple, kind of some vacancies. So I needed to hire a new, Greg Meyer retired, I needed to hire a new CFO, needed to hire a new head of revenue, needed to hire a new head of marketing, and we lost our head of HR at the time as well. So we had all these openings. So we went out, and our goal, or my goal, was to try to hire people who had kind of been there, done that at that stage of our next stage of growth, which was going to be 20 million I forgot that part. We had grown from 7 million the first time to 20 million when we did that round. So the next phase was to try to find people that had been there from 20 million to 50 million growth and had that experience, and that was the intention. And I didn't necessarily do that. We tried, but so oftentimes when you're hiring in Bend, it's tough. You can't always get what you're looking for, especially people with SaaS experience in that stage. So we ended up, we made some good hires, got some good people that came out of larger companies, a few out of big enterprise companies, and it was good. And we had a couple of really good years then where we grew and we're putting new systems in place. We were kind of growing up as a business, and it was good. But we also had some kind of cultural challenges. We had people out of these big, I think it's hard to go from a several billion-dollar company to a $20 million company, and we felt it after a couple of years. So a few years into it, wheels started falling off again, and we started running into challenges again. And good employees started leaving, good customers started leaving, retention rates dropped, and growth slowed for the third time. So that was tough. And actually, right before that, right at the beginning of that, I forgot this part. RealPage came back again. Said, we really want to buy you this time. For this is the third time they came back. I said, we want to buy you, share some numbers with us. We're really and we said, listen, last time around, you guys wasted so much of our time. If you can hit this number, we'll talk to you. And they said, no, we can't hit that number. So they went away, and we saved a lot of time. So when you're working for a PE firm, right, things are great when you're hitting your numbers, right? They love you. But when you miss, they're not so happy. You miss one quarter, they may give you a break. You miss 2 quarters, and things aren't good. You miss 3 quarters, and your life as a CEO was freaking living hell. And we missed 3 quarters. And they were all over. Then they started coming from Philadelphia to Bend and kind of wanting to get, and it was tough. And we had a lot of things going on at the company, some internal turmoil and just a lot of growing pains still, scaling issues. But it also happened that about that time, one of our executives wanted to go overseas and went overseas, and then another one wanted to move back to New York. And so it gave me an opportunity to kind of rebuild the team. And so I went out and did some hiring again. And this time I got lucky, or not lucky. Hopefully I had learned from a few times, and it paid off. But I hired first a CFO. We hired a guy named Kelly Lang who was moving to Bend, and he was really, really good as a CFO. He had worked for 2 private equity companies that he grew in Portland. They were private equity-backed companies, not private equity-backed software companies, and he helped grow them. And he came on board, and so what happened, he was building a house, and he was planning on retiring in Bend. And I met him, and we hit it off. We had a good time, and I told him that his golf game wasn't that good, and he's not going to get that much better at golf, and he can't retire, and he needed to come work for me for 3 days a week and help us get this thing growing again, and that there was a chance that we would sell it in the next couple of years, and he could do well. And he signed up for it. And it was good, and I was happy, and we were lucky to have him on board. So he came on board, and as good CFO, he cut costs right away, which we needed to do. When he started, we had 280 employees, and about a year later, we were down at 250, and we managed that mostly through attrition, but some that we had to manage out. But we were more efficient as a business with fewer employees and more profitable. which is what a good CFO does. And then I also hired a new chief revenue officer, a guy named Doug Johnson, who was a Seattle guy and had been there, done that at this stage of growth, and was really good as a sales leader. He had actually been sales leader in the soda company and then been the CEO of a company as well. And so I told Doug, I said, listen, there's a chance that we're going to sell this in the next couple of years. You come on board, and once we sell it, I'm out of here, and there's a good chance that you could run the company. And he liked that and signed up for it. And he was a strong leader, a good, all about teamwork, team player, good at it. And so anyway, he came on board, and again, we got the thing turned around and grown again, and it was fun. We started winning again. We started, having more fun, having more parties. We had a lot of parties at G5. I don't know if you guys know, but we right? We like a lot of companies will have a kegger. We full bar, and it was fun. If you ever went out downtown, like any night of the week, you could go by G5 late night, and there was probably people there hanging out it was fun. But anyway, we got it growing again. It was fun. The company is good, and everything is good. We're growing, and we're profitable. And I was like, wow, we're finally taking a breath. And then COVID hits. It's like, damn, 3 turnarounds, and then COVID hits. And we didn't know what was going to happen. Times were weird, right? It was like, no one knew. People were hoarding toilet paper, right? It was like, what the fuck's going on? And so, luckily, my CFO, how we doing? Did we get on time? All right? Yeah. So our CFO came on board. It came to me, and he's like, Dan, we got to cut costs. I'm like, okay. And he said, we don't know how bad this is going to be. We got to cut costs. So, a good CFO will use any excuse they can to cut costs. And COVID was perfect. It was like a CFO's dream. Like, we could cut costs. And so you couldn't argue with him, right? Times were weird. So we did a short little hiring freeze at the time. Just very short, because we had a couple 250 employees, so we had to, as people left, you had to keep hiring. We cut all travel and trade shows. They were actually cut for us. They're being canceled, but we were able to save a lot of money by doing that. We cut our 401k match plan, which, it was tough. People didn't like that, but it was COVID. We cut our first half bonuses to all employees and the exec team and management. It was tough. But then the biggest thing is, everyone had to work from home, which I hated. But our lease was coming due, and I was really close to signing a new 10-year lease for 50,000 square feet at the Ben Bulletin building. And COVID hit, and we didn't do it. And then everyone was working from home, and then our lease is coming due, and we ended up going from 45,000 square feet downtown to 15,000 square feet in the old mill, and saved about $1 million a year in rent. So that was good. COVID, that was one of the good things. So anyway, we cut a lot of costs, which is good. And then a couple months later, we find out that our customers are actually doing okay. We didn't really get affected. They got hit. The storage market got hit, and then it came back really strong, and it's been the strongest it's ever been since. And multifamily got hit, and then it came back, and it's also been like record growth and rent increases and so forth. Senior living got hit really hard, and they struggled. It was the worst. The business got the worst kind of it ever was. Occupancy rates dropped to 80%, worst it ever was. But they all got PPP money, and everyone continued to pay us. No one ever not paid us. So we got really lucky. And we actually started growing the business in 2020. And we were lucky to be, the type of business that you need. Marketing, you can't cut. We applied for a PPP loan. We got approved for $4 million. And we were signing documents, and we said, we can't do this. We didn't take it. We sent it back, said we can't take this money. We didn't need it. And that was good. Yeah, it was good. So then by the end of 2020, growth was good. We had cut a lot of costs. Profitability was the best it's ever been. The company was looking really good. Peak had been in 5 years. They said, listen, it's time to go test the market. So we hired a banker, ran a process, and RealPage ended up being the biggest, highest bidder. And actually what happened is RealPage it was a public company, and they had been taken private by a private equity group called Tomo Bravo. And Thoma Bravo is a huge software private equity group, and they bought RealPage for $10 billion, and their plan was to go do a bunch of add-on acquisitions, and we were their first one. They closed their deal, they closed in April, and we signed our deal 3 months later in July. So RealPage, their first came to us in 2013. Their first offer was $50 million, which we turned down. They came back 3 months later and offered us $70 million. That's when we signed the LOI and almost sold it. And thank God that 2 weeks before they tried to retrade and we blew out of that deal. And then the third time they came around, I threw out a crazy number and they said no, they didn't take it, so we never really got there. But then the fourth time, we had grown the business to about $45 million in recurring revenue, and they paid us just under $300 million for the business, a little over 6 times revenue, and 6 times greater than the first offer they gave us. So if you have a business, hold out for the fourth offer. So we, almost done. So we signed the definitive agreement July 25th, and then when the deal's over $100 million, you have to do, it's called an HSR, government antitrust period, a 30-day period to make sure there's no antitrust in the deal. And so we were scheduled to close August 26th, and we were moving to close August 26th. And I tell people that, so I had been kind of heads down grinding on the business, not me, but the entire team, all of us grinding on growing the business, turn around, grow, turn around, grow, turn around, grow, turn around, grow, COVID, grow, and we finally picked the bankers, we decided we're going to sell it, go through the process. If you go through the process, preparing to run a process is a lot of work. And then you got to go through the kind of road shows. Fortunately, they were all on Zoom, so we didn't have to travel, but all the road shows, all the different pitches, so forth. You go through that, and you pick the buyer, then you negotiate the deal, grind through all that, then you diligence, all the diligence, sign the deal, and we did the HSR stuff, and we're getting to the kind of where we're supposed to close. And we had taken my oldest son to college back east, and we were supposed to go visit some friends in Virginia. And this is a couple days before we were supposed to close our deal. And anyway, my wife, Sarah, after this, she's got a really bad headache and a bad cough, really bad cough. And then I got a bad headache, and we're supposed to go stay at some friend's house. I'm like, we should get tested, and we both test positive for COVID. And so we're in some random hotel in Virginia, and both of us were like not feeling great. And anyway, and then the next day was the closing call, and it's a pretty cool call if you be on a closing call. So the lead attorney driving the deal has everyone's on the call. So our attorneys and the Peak, the seller, and Peak, our private equity guys, and RealPage, and Thoma Bravo, and Goldman Sachs did the funding, and everyone's on, and it goes around, and he's, he asked everyone, did you release your signature, but you approve of the deal, basically. Everyone approved of the deal, and he said, congratulations, your deal is done. You closed the deal. And I was sitting there and feeling like shit, and in bed, and I hung up the phone, and I looked at my wife, and I had tears in my eyes, and I was like, I didn't know if I was happy or sad, but I had a bad headache, and the deal was done. It was over. Sold it. So, I got some lessons learned to share, and then we can do some questions. And there's nothing really profound here, and I think you've probably heard most of these, but I'll share them anyway because I think if there's entrepreneurs in the room, it's good to hear these and good advice. I always share this one, but I always say hire stage-appropriate people. I did this by hiring. If you hire people that come from big companies down to small companies, it often doesn't work. It's always good to find people that have been there, done that at that stage of growth. I think that's really important. And when you do make a mistake and you hire the wrong person, you guys know this, but correct it as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the worse it is for everyone, for you, the company, the person, the individual. So fix the mistake when you make a hiring mistake. 2 is stick with your gut, right? Pretty basic, but it's amazing how you can kind of, as a CEO, kind of forget that. When we did our first deal with Volition, and I brought on this new woman to run sales out of the enterprise world, and she was convincing me that we had to move to this horizontal sales model from a vertical model. And I was kind of like, well, she's got more experience than I do, and so I'm like, doesn't feel right, and we did it, and it was a huge mistake. And I had to fire her, a year later to unwind it, and it was painful. And so it's like, you stick with your gut. And then another time when I was hiring our chief revenue officer a few years ago, Doug Johnson, and the board had a candidate that they wanted to hire, a guy out of the East Coast. And he wasn't a good fit for the business. And Doug was a really good culture fit, and I liked him a lot. But the board, the entire board, there's 5 people on the board, 4 people wanted the other guy, and I wanted Doug. And we battled for about 3 weeks. And finally I said, listen, if you guys want to hire your guy, go ahead, hire him. But you better hire a new CEO too, because I'm leaving. And next day they call and they go, you can hire your guy. I was like, whoo, thank God. And thank God Doug worked and delivered. He was good. And it worked. And they've never said anything about it, but that was a big battle. But it was like, I knew right here, he was the right fit for the company. The other guy it would have been terrible. We wouldn't have sold it. The third advice for CEOs is don't beat yourself up too much. I think a lot of people who run businesses do this. And I kind of learned this probably best through, I was part of Vistage, which is a great organization. If you're not in it, you should try to get into it if you're a CEO. It's a CEO group. We met once a month. We had a really good group in Bend of CEOs. And I loved going to my Vistage meeting because I could listen to all the other CEOs' problems. And I was like, God, it's so nice to know that I'm not the only guy with problems. And every business has challenges and problems. And it's just, and I think a lot of times you're just really hard on yourself. And a fast-growing business doesn't grow without having challenges. And so, we were hard on our executive team was hard on us. I was hard on myself. And then when we did the deal with RealPage and we were merging with this other division, and we're like, what a shit show. And we're like, God, we were really good, and we were beating ourselves up for so long. And anyway, so don't beat yourself up too much. This is a fun one that I like that G5ers always give me grief on, but I used to say, don't confuse selling with delivery. And you got to sell. You got to get out and sell, and then you'll figure out how to deliver the product. But the other side of that is a lot of companies will go out and they'll invest a lot of money trying to build a product and then go see if they can sell it. And they'll spend 2 years building a software product and they go see if they can sell it and no one wants to buy it. And so my approach is, listen, let's go sell it first and build slides and mock-ups and so forth and sell it. And if they buy it, then we can build it. And I think that you got to do that when you're building software. Otherwise, or any product, you got to go test the market, sell it, and then figure out how to build it. And then the last is, this is the most important. You guys are going to like this. Listen to your front line, okay? And as a CEO, it's hard. A lot of people in the company will just kind of kiss your ass and tell you stuff they think you want to hear and not tell you the truth. And your salespeople, especially, they'll tell you how great everything is, kind of. Or they're always, they're just salespeople. But your account managers, the people that work with your customers every day, they know the customers, and they know where your problems are within a business. And we went to a lot of trade shows, conferences and trade shows, and my favorite thing to do was go with the trade shows and get the account managers drunk in the bar late night, and they would open up. They'd open up and tell me who I needed to fire within the company and who was doing that. And you learn so much from your account managers. And anyway, listen to them. And that's what I got.
Thank you. I'm going to creep on you just a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm going to hug this way a little bit. Dan, your wife is exceptionally lovely. I taught your children yoga when they were in preschool.
Oh, good.
And I loved your lessons. They were deeply profound. Thank you. This has been wonderful. I'm so curious. This is a huge deal. The entire town is rooting for you. How's your life different now than it was before the deal?
I sleep. It's funny. So after we closed the deal, I called the M&A guy at RealPage and I said, this the day it closed, I said, and I was going on to a consulting agreement. I said, so when's my last day? When's my official last day? When do I move to consulting agreement? And this is August 26th, he's like, September 1st. And I was on vacation, so I was done. So I was like, wow, I'm out. So I've been out since September. It's been really good. How's it going over there? Yeah, it's good. Actually, what I do want to say one thing because I didn't mention that. The buyer was RealPage, and they had a division that we were merging with. But the good thing is they kept our team is driving the integration, and they're keeping the Bend office, and our management team is driving the integration. They have a division in San Diego that's kind of rolling into the Bend. So I didn't have any control over that. I wanted that, and I'm really glad that that's how it's
so
good.
cool.
Still there. Right, exactly. But my life is, I don't know, I'm working on a new project.
Oh, really? Can you say more?
It's early still. Doing research in the wildfire fuels reduction space.
Ooh,
It's
cool.
good. We need it. We need to do a lot of wildfire fuels reduction.
Cool.
So if anyone wants to talk about that, I'm super passionate. I've done more research on that in the last 4 months than probably anyone. And it's interesting. It's an interesting space. I don't know what I'm doing in it yet, but we're doing something.
I just love that you're like trust yourself. You trust your process. It's really inspiring. I know we have probably lots of questions, so I will look to the audience. Any questions for Dan? You just stunned everyone. Yes, sir with the glasses. Interesting question. Okay, let me just recap. So you built this culture over many, many years, and then COVID hits. You downsize your office. Most people are working from home. If you were going to start another big company, would you want everyone in the office, or would you look to a hybrid model? Or
Yeah. I'm a big culture guy. I hated the work from home. I was like a little kid. When the governor would send the emails, I was fighting it. Our general counsel, I'd say, no, we're not doing that. And I got overruled by my general counsel. I am a big believer in culture and bringing people together and building teams, and I would 100% do it in the office. Now, there's a lot of businesses that you don't need to do that, and they work great remotely. I think it depends on the type of business, but I'd push for get everyone together. It's just more fun.
yeah, it's like how much money do you want to spend on toilet paper? I don't know.
There's when you're in a room and you have a whiteboard and you're riffing, right? And you're riffing, you're drinking some riff energy drink, and you're riffing, and like there's just like stuff happens, right? And you can't do that on Zoom. So it's my opinion.
That's a great answer. Yes.
G5 Kids and some of the giving culture that you created over there, it's kind of two questions. How important do you think that was for building the culture, especially in Bend? And then when you sold the company, did you try to negotiate that?
So for your G5 Gives program, your giving program, how important was that to the culture, and what happened to that program when you sold?
So it was hugely important to grow in the business. We were here. We did not negotiate it in. It didn't come up in the deal. I don't know. How's it going? We don't know. They're still trying. We don't know yet. We still in the budget. 2022 budget. We gave a lot of money away. We did a ton of events every year. And it was really important to us. We wanted to be a good part of our values, to be a good corporate citizen, right? And we did. We did a ton in Bend. I don't know. They're out of Dallas. Do a little bit. I think there's still some unknowns right now.
I love a person who can speak full sentences without any words. Yeah. It's a lot happening. Yeah. It's okay. It's a lot happening. It's in transition. Okay. Anybody else? Yes. What did you do to center yourself throughout all the ups and the downs?
Drank a lot.
I have a follow-up question. This is a question.
No, it's you know what? I have three kids, 3 boys, 18, 16, and 14. And trying to find balance in like running a company and a wife, an amazing wife, and 3 kids, and a dog, and a board, and employee. It's hard. It's really, really hard. I did a lot of this the balance wheel exercises to try to kind of balance myself, keep balance, but it's tough, really tough.
Would you do it all again?
No, not now. If I was, not now, but 20 years ago, I'd say yes, do it again, but
Fair.
I wouldn't do it
That's
now.
very fair.
I'm too
That's
old.
Very fair. Yes.
To be clear, it's actually been great. You secured. They gave us a bonus for extra money for insurance costs and all that stuff. Like the new company's great.
New company's
taking
great.
care. We can confirm.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Doing great. Dan secured a lot of great things for the people. She's sitting right here. She's here cheering you on. Yeah. You did good. You did good.
I think anything could happen when you go sell a company. It could be any type of buyer. It could have got shut down easily because we're moving it out of Bend. The fact that we've got all, and unfortunately, I didn't have this. In the previous deal, I had the say in that matter, but on this last deal, I didn't have the say of if the private equity guys owned more than I did. And so they could have said, screw it, we're selling to whoever, highest bidder, and it's going to move. We got really lucky with who the buyer is and how it's worked out for G5. And I'd like to take credit for it, but whatever, we got lucky.
I mean, I think it's amazing you still have hair, to be honest. This is a harrowing, this was like a very dramatic, a lot of ups and downs. You were holding a lot. You look great. When you talked about like the upgrading the executive team, I was like, is that like eyelash extensions? Like what is, I don't know, this seems like kind of a strange thing. Yes?
It sounds like you had opportunities to diversify quite a bit. How did you stay?
You had opportunities to diversify a lot. How did you stay in your own lane? How did you stay focused on what you were doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually, it was the first couple years when we were in storage, we were bootstrapping, so we didn't really have the resources to kind of go beyond. And part of our success was, how could we consistently deliver results in a replicable way that's easy? And so we were kind of just like limited. And I think by bootstrapping a business, maybe is the answer here, that versus raise a bunch of money up front. When you're in front, we can go do this, and a lot of people make mistakes by doing that. And so we didn't have an option. We just kind of stayed laser focused. And then, but we were in 3 verticals, and actually it was tough being in three because you do software integrations in each one, and you spread yourselves thin. And in hindsight, I was like, God, I wish we'd stayed in 1, but the buyer came from the last one, so it's probably good that we moved to multifamily.
Someone was looking out for you. Any other questions? Yes. So specific to management, like what are the most important things you would tell companies? Because this is, I agree, this is a really important topic.
Some people probably won't like this answer. People, if we hired people out of Microsoft, and that was a big mistake. It didn't work. All right, huge company, and they wanted to move to Bend, and it didn't work. And I was in front of them, like, we're never hiring anyone out of Microsoft. All right, I'd say the way it works is you hire, you want people who are hungry to move up in their careers. So you take a director that wants to become a VP, or that. I think that you have much more success, especially at the early stages of a company, where depending from 0 to 20 or 20 to 50 million. I think you're going to have much more success doing that than getting someone out of a big company. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, we've all worked for companies that put people in management positions that are not managers. It's a very it's a unique role, right? Not many people are truly good at being managers.
Right.
Yeah. But there's a lot of them out there, isn't there? Okay, well, anyhow. Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes.
So from the outside, it sounds like you've done the entrepreneurial dream. Do you feel like a success?
Okay, so it sounds like from the outside you found the entrepreneurial dream. Do you feel like a success?
So I was out September 1st, and I may not look it, but I'm young. I think I'm young. 53, that's young in my mind. And I'm like, I'm not retired. And my kids are like, Dad's unemployed. He's like, are you collecting unemployment? So I read a book. Okay, there's a book called Halftime. And the book says your first half is all about success, great, grind, success. And then you have the middle, it's a halftime where you make your second half game plan. And your second half has to be about significance and giving back. And so that's why I'm doing the work in the wildfire fuels reduction space. But I think that there's something bigger going to happen. I don't know what it is, but that'll be more significant than G5.
I just got chills. I think that's such a great place for us to close tonight. I so appreciate you sharing your story with us. I know a lot of people are going to want to connect with you and chat with you. Aaron, we have one more since it's you. Have you heard of Venture Catalyst, a role at EDCO? Have
I heard of it?
Have you heard of this? Does this does any bells ringing, Dan? Are you feeling anything right now? Is it?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Dan just blacked out, Aaron. Good job.
Yes.
Again, Dan, thank you so much. The
All right,
whole
thank you.
town is rooting for you. How about another round of applause for Dan Hobin? Oh, Dan, my God. Dan, I got a gift for you. I forgot. It's our tradition. We give you a stein. You can bring this back next time. You can fill it up with beer. You can go fill it right now. I just ask them to rinse it, Give it a rinse. Thank you.